Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 14 of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm in a different background right now. I'm in my wife's office. I got a new desk, and she loves putting stuff like that together. So she's up in my office right now.
She's
my new desk.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you? Wow. What's wrong with that? So my alternative was I ordered it from Home Depot, and they had an option to pay someone to come set it up for me. It was like $150, and I was like, I'm absolutely gonna do that. I'm not gonna spend a whole afternoon building this stupid thing because I hate that. Well, and she was like, I'll just do it for you. You can pay me $150. And I was like, well, that makes more sense.
I'm very baffled on two things. One, obviously your wife putting together, which I know you well enough. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Two, why bought a desk at Home Depot? Would you buy like a toolbox and that's going to be your desk? Like, what are you going for here?
It's actually a pretty nice desk. It's like, so, I mean, it was online. I was looking at different ones. And it's basically like a corner desk, so I can have a little bit better setup to film this stuff and to start filming all the new videos we're going to be filming this year. Because like the setup I had before, it just wasn't, super functional. Like I had like a lot of clutter. The lighting was always weird. There's just kind of nonstop. It just wasn't good for the space. So I rearranged my entire office. I got a new desk coming. It's like a little bit of a different functionality, but it'll be good. But and I liked it from Home Depot because I was looking at other ones, and it's ridiculous. You look at some of this stuff, it'll be like a piece of wood and some legs. It's like $2,500.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's stupid.
It's ridiculous.
Well, the good thing is like I trust your wife to put it together better than the Home Depot installer. So you're winning today. On multiple fronts.
Yeah. No shit. Yeah. And also too, as a Home Depot person, I probably would have been waiting like weeks for them to do it. But,
of course.
So anyway, so I'm in her dark office right now. I might need to turn on a light here in a minute so the sunlight's quickly fading.
Wow.
We had a good start. I guess it was first official week of 2022 with our staff working. I had a big sigh of relief on Thursday, Friday, as our first set of marketing finally started hitting. When we had it go out before New Year's, and just with the delays in the post office and stuff, it took a little while. It took about a couple days longer than normal to start getting on people's doorstep for us.
Which I'm actually like, this is sad, but I'm actually slightly surprised it hit. Like,
right.
Because like just the fact of how we've had with the Postal Service this whole year has been kind of like up and down or like weird stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm glad it hit in a relatively timely manner.
For sure. Yeah. So we ordered it on Friday. Traditionally in the past it would start hitting on Monday or Tuesday, which is what, is ideal because then at the start of the work week, the guys can start getting after it. Instead, it didn't hit until Thursday. But, I did have like half of a day where I was like, I really hope that it's actually going to, we're going to get some calls. We didn't just play goose egg.
Right. Yeah.
Because we have done that before, especially when you're playing around with data. I mean, I spent a lot of time over the Christmas period optimizing our data to market a little bit better. And, I've screwed up stuff in the past, and we've sent like 5,000 mailers, and all the data was wrong. So we got no calls.
Yeah, or the one time like you put the return address as the wrong zip code. It still made it to us. We're like, where's the return address? And like I think that was one of the batches that maybe we were worried about it hitting. We're like, dude, did it hit? And that was like I think the first batch that we sent that wasn't like priority or that we tried out doing not priority or something like that. Yeah. You remember that? And it was like, why is it not hitting? And then I'm like, we have no RTS. You're like, where did it go?
Yeah, right. I know. And that was the other thing we learned too is the nuances of the postal service. If you don't pay for first class mail, you don't actually get it back, which I didn't know either.
Well, we did. The only reason why we didn't get it back though was because the zip code was wrong, and so it took it a while to find the right zip code, and so it was like a month later, and then all of a sudden we got all at once, and like everyone said wrong zip code. So maybe I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. Semantics. It's kind of the challenges of having to rely on third parties for everything. But overall though, we had a good response first 2 days. I mean, 4 days, even over the weekend, we've had quite a few leads come in. The guys are off, so I've been trying to follow up with people. But it's always fascinating to me that somebody calls in, you call them back 10 minutes later, and they don't answer their phone, and they never get back to you.
I know. It's like it's so frustrating.
They just like throw their phone and like run away. I don't understand.
They change their mind immediately. Like, why did I do that? Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, our first group that hit was, I think, about 4,000 mailers, and we got, I think over the past few days, maybe 30 something leads that we'll be navigating through. We got our first deal for the year on Friday. Earlier in the week, we had a couple other ones from the end of the year that we should be getting. We literally had a lady text in late at night and was like, "Hey, is your offer still stand? I'd like to go." I was sitting on my couch, immediately saw it, and texted back and was like, "Yeah, sure." Sent over the contract. She never even freaking opened the contract.
Oh,
and I even texted her to confirm. I was like, what the fuck is this situation?
She's like, "Nope, gotcha."
Yeah, exactly right. I don't know exactly. Wow. And that was like a 10-minute delay on that. It was like right on it, quick.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's always challenging.
Well, it's weird too, because like I feel like the end of the year is always like kind of crammed. Like even just like this last year, in December, like we closed on our 8 unit on like the 29th.
Yeah.
30th, and then we had just had like a bunch of different closings happening. I'm trying to go through them all in my head the last week, and then a bunch of leads and all that stuff. It's like this whole year is like compressing into the end of the year, the holidays and stuff, and then all of a sudden you have this weird like gap where it feels like nothing's going on, and then you start reworking those old leads. They start coming out of the graveyard or wherever the hell they went, and then all of a sudden your new leads are hitting too. Your new batch of mailers from January start hitting, and then all of a sudden it's busy and you're off to the races again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of just the way it works with the cycles. That's one of the things we're working on this year is spreading, like figuring out how to time stuff a little bit better so it's less ebbs and flows and just more consistent. Not only for doing business, but I think it keeps the morale higher with the team as well if it's kind of just like consistent work, because it's always, I think, slightly crushing when you're slammed and you feel like you're getting a lot of deals, and then all of a sudden next week it's like dead. It's like, what happened?
Right.
Yeah.
Then
at the same time, they spend that week getting lazy when things are dead, and then all of a sudden it ramps up really high again. Now we're inefficient because everyone got lazy the week before. So it seems like a fine balance, figuring out how we're gonna, like keep it consistent. And there's a few different ways we're doing it, like spread it, like batching our mail a little bit more, hitting like people with different kinds of mail to get different response rates, and because everything sort of stands out to people a little bit more than others. So yeah, there's no like direct, it's hard. Over the holidays I even tried pulling some data, like doing like linear regressions, which is super nerdy, just trying to find like, okay, so how do we connect? And like for us specifically, like our leads to contracts, I think it was, or something like that, like there's like a 20% super nerdy R squared value, which basically means it's like shit, like there's no correlation. And so it's really hard to correlate because also if the contracts take say 30-40 days to get signed from when the lead comes in, like you almost have to shift all your data when you're trying to analyze it by a month to see like how it correlates. So it's really hard to correlate. And then on top of that, if you're trying to correlate it, like driving consistency in your business, right? Because that's what we're trying to do right now is like, how do we like not have super high months and super low months? Like, how do we at least like just have this baseline? Because then like if you can start out where your baseline is like, I'm doing a contract a month, just fundamental, then your goal should be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? And so but you got to have that baseline to where you don't drop super low. And so you're always trying to raise that valley. But to do that, you'd love to have data, but it's just super hard to dig through that data. Yeah, and a big part of that was our tracking too, because we didn't necessarily know what we were, what we needed to track at the start. And now this year we have a better idea, so it should be better going forward. But, the previous couple of years, we would try to measure by different campaigns or different types of mail and all that sort of stuff. And instead, what we're going to be doing going forward is just like measuring an exact campaign just one time with that phone number, then basically retiring that phone number and moving on to the next one, and then retiring that phone number, moving on to the next one, as opposed to having the same phone number for different campaigns carrying across months.
Right.
Because then you're like, well, I don't really know how effective that campaign was because I mailed with that same phone number 4 or 5 different times.
Right. Yeah. Anything you can eliminate any room for error on that makes so much sense.
Exactly. But yeah, and you know, figuring out your KPIs like that'll be, you know, is kind of key to be more efficient, especially when you're spending all this money. We have kind of our first coaching person. We're looking to do some coaching here shortly for some newer investors, and I'm working with somebody right now. It's kind of like a beta test, and that's one of the things I'm working with him on at the very start. Is like, you have limited resources. You're just starting out. You haven't made any money yet. Let's make sure we're tracking this correctly, so we're getting the most out of your money. You know, because if somebody starts out that way, they can avoid what we did and having to waste hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing because we didn't know what was working and what wasn't.
Yeah, and honestly, there's really very few people. I mean, people throw the term KPI around a lot, but there's very few people actually teaching how to do it. And it's because I think most people don't know how to do it because it is complex. Like I was telling you, I'm trying to pull linear regressions on it, which is super nerdy and probably not necessary. But just trying to dig in and build those KPIs and monitor things, because you would love to be able to say, hey, if we spend this much money, we should see this many leads, and so on and so forth as it goes down the chain. So then you can levelize your business, and then you can be the most efficient with your employees' times as possible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, and I think that adds up to being, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, every single year that gets saved, not only just in marketing, but also, like you said, in the guys' times, right? And then like what you're paying them for. If they can be more efficient, you know, not only in terms of just like how they spend their time, but also how they prioritize stuff as well. Because that's kind of one of the biggest things that it's easy to fall into the trap of, is you're having lots of stuff come in, but you're not really sure what's effective. So now they're spending their energy on things that are on like leads that are less important, right? Or on tasks that are less important, or trying to navigate your BS. And this is a very energy intensive business. You know, so when people start wasting their energy on the crappy leads, you don't know that they're not good. It's gonna make their effort towards the good leads be reduced.
Yeah. I mean, it's sales, and one of the hardest, you know, niches of sales, right? Which is off-market real estate, and so some people will waste your stinking time, and it's frustrating. And it's like they never intend to sell, or they are unrealistic, but you know, your act manager or whoever spends so much time on them, and then like they're like, God, I got to call this person back, and they know it's going to be a pain in the butt, and they suck their energy. So if you can put good qualified leads in front of your act manager every time they're picking up the phone, like that's ideal, right? Because then they can keep their energy levels up. They're thinking about it in terms of too, of like, I got to close this deal because I got to put food on the table, right? This is how they earn their living. This is how we earn our living. And so having that energy, what do we call it? The Mickey Mouse or Disneyland voice, like allowing them to have that all the time, which is hard, is important to like being successful long term.
Yeah. Emma, what do you mean by Disneyland voice? I want to hear your impression.
I don't even have one. Don't put me on the spot. But you know, Disneyland voice is like the kid that's excited when they find out they're going to go to Disneyland, right? Or when they're at Disneyland, everything's so excited, and you're higher pitched, you're motivated, you're excited. Everything you're saying is exciting, and you're motivating that person that they want to talk to you.
Exactly. How I always think about it, it's like you're calling somebody to tell them they want a trip to Disneyland, even though you're calling them to tell them that you're going to be offering 50% of value for their house. So you can be like, you know, hey, Mr. Seller. You know, thanks so much for taking my call. I'm really excited for this offer we put together for you. You know, we spent the afternoon looking over the numbers, the photos. I think there's a lot of great things going on here. We're going to be able to offer you $160,000 cash for this house closing 3 weeks from today. How does that sound? You know, sort of like
that's hard. It's hard to do. Like for some people, it's more natural. Like, you know, for you guys like you and me, it wasn't as natural to learn that in our sales pitches, but you can do it. You just have to practice it and understand the value of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've come to find it's something that's been reflecting on the past year and a bit. I've really noticed is learning a lot from just observing even our acquisitions managers and like our other people that have worked for us. If you sort of study what they do and what works and what doesn't, you can learn a surprising amount without actually having to, you know, get the licks yourself, right?
Right. Yes. Right. Exactly.
So sometimes it's almost better because, you know, as like the armchair quarterback in the back office, just sort of analyzing and sort of hearing what works and what doesn't, I feel like it's almost easier to recognize those patterns because you only hear the critical conversations and not all the ones in between. So like, you know, with our people, we review kind of the calls that end up yielding objections from the sellers, or when they're making offers, because those are kind of the critical conversations. A lot of the middle ones we don't really review. And it's amazing. There's so many different kinds of sellers and situations, but so many of the conversations are like kind of the same. There's like different components, different objections that come up all the time. There's definitely an art to it, and that's where the sales side, I think, comes in. Of you sort of learn to recognize these patterns and learn how to navigate them in your favor, as opposed to just sort of submitting to them. There's still always curveballs, obviously, but right. It's just like how if you ever go into a car dealership, like to buy a new car, like every single person has obviously been to the same car salesman school. They have like a whole right. shtick that they give you. They're like, the first two offers are always the worst. You're always supposed to wait for the third one. They do the shit where they like write the number like on the piece of paper and like slide it towards you. It's like, right? It's all the same. And the same thing applies for our business as well. But yeah, so.
It does. It's really critical as we review these calls, because that's where you're going to improve yourself or your salespeople. That's how you improve your team. And like, I don't know of any other technique. Like, you can't just read a book or send somebody to that type of training and then all of a sudden overnight they're good. Like, you've got to be critical of yourself and critical of these calls. And like, one big thing I learned too through the process is like, you got to truly listen to who you're talking to. And then you can react so much better in the moment when you're actually listening to them. It's really easy to start talking and then keep talking.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're kind of giving them news that in this business, they're typically in a bad situation. Mm-hmm. And in the market we've been seeing, they're used to this, like, oh, my house is worth this much. And you're like, it might be to somebody, but not to me. And you're trying to explain that to them, but also trying to solve a problem for them, whatever that problem may be. But if you're not listening correctly, you're not able to pivot to the problem that's most effective for that sales pitch.
Yep. Yeah, you're completely right. And back to what you said about the training, going to reading books, stuff like that. You're completely right. You can't just sort of read it, go to those seminars and be good, or be better even. Mm-hmm. But I think you have to be pretty intentional about picking parts that you learn from those books or those sales training and putting them into practice, even though it seems unnatural. So something that we're working with our guy this year, never split the difference. He has this whole practice where when you put your final offer in, make it extremely specific. So instead of being, $175,000, we do $174,980. And basically psychologically, what that's supposed to do is make it sound like you've really calculated this, and they're like, oh dang, you really did your homework. I guess there is no more room at that point.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing these high ticket purchases where 175 to 177 might not be that much of a difference in that way. Right. But now if you have it dialed down, they're gonna potentially think that you've done that much more homework on it. But
and that's a great example. Like, I guess I'm not advocating to not go to the training, because I think it's any type of negotiating training you can get involved in is going to be super helpful, but how you deliver it is where you need to listen to your calls, and you need to kind of analyze how you deliver it and how it landed. Like, is there a different way to say it? Is there a better way to say it? Is there a different timing of when you throw in that offer, or when you're actually going back and forth with the seller? Like, there's all sorts of different things so that you have like this quiver of arrows, and you know when to pull the right one out at the right time.
Yeah, exactly. But, and there's no perfect solution. There's always going to be challenging situations that you can't really overcome. One of the ones that you can't even really control is like external factors that lead to objections. So that's something that we dealt with a lot this past week. We had a huge amount of snow this week in Spokane, and it's silly, right? Because a lot of our mail started hitting when the snow was falling, and people that obviously have obvious motivations we can see on paper, they call us and they're like, I am never selling this house. Don't you ever call me again. And we're like, what happened is you woke up and you're like, sell my house, but there's snow outside. I can't do that. And you're like,
I know.
Calm down. The snow will be gone in 2 days.
Yes.
Then you want to sell your house.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we get a lot of that too. Just whatever's going on in the current world events, or weather definitely plays a huge role of it. We're in the Northwest, and it snows a lot here in the wintertime, and it's crappy. It's cold out, and I mean, I don't want to get out and do anything. Like, I'm not going to be moving right now, but I'm also not in pre-foreclosure.
Yeah, exactly, right. I know a lot of people, they're willing to flirt with that a little bit more, when the weather's bad, or like the election's coming up, or during the summer, we find like around holidays, people want to do less stuff. 4th of July, no one wants to sell their house then because they want to go to the lake. And it's like, well, you should probably solve your bankruptcy before you go and rent a boat.
Right? Yeah. Seriously. Yep.
Yeah. So it's pretty constant. And it's always frustrating too, because here the weather is just such a diverse thing. Like talking to friends that we have down in Texas, or some of these southern areas, they just don't even have that. It kind of just never stops. It's very consistent. And I think that when we start to go virtual, we were doing some virtual stuff down in Knoxville for a little while. We paused that just to sort of optimize our systems a little bit locally. I think when we go virtual, we definitely gotta pick somewhere that's only sunny all the time.
Right.
We're not dealing with that BS anymore.
Yeah. Nice climates. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, exactly. So,
especially when we do another virtual flip, if we can do it somewhere super conducive to the beach, that'd be great.
Make it not virtual anymore. We'll go down there to do it on site.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. So cool. I guess the weather doesn't affect our flips up here too much, though. You're cruising through our current one.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't slow us down. Obviously, it's internal, inside work, and that one's, it's moving well. We got drywall up. So I think we're, I don't know, what are we, like 2, if you don't count the demo, because the demo was like a week of, the junk guys coming in and taking it, and then they had to go, it took them a few days to get it all cleaned out because there's so much stuff in there. And then our contractor had to go back in there and clean it because it was just covered in feces, right? So we had like that week, and then I think we're about like 2.5 weeks into it from start to finish so far, and we got all the drywall up and it's cruising, so we're going to be on schedule, on time, get this thing out, hopefully listed in February would be sweet. So
which would be pretty awesome, because it was a decent sized project. Well, we're going to put together a video up on our YouTube to show this, but we bought this hoarder house. We had to cash for keys to tenants that were in there. We had to junk out the house, had an unfinished basement, so we basically added a bathroom down there, which involved cutting into the concrete and doing all this stuff, where we framed in all the rooms. Drywall's up down there now. We've run fresh electrical throughout various parts down there, fresh plumbing. It's basically turning it from a 2-bed 1-bath to a 4-bed 2-bath. And we bought it for $150. What are we going to be into it? I think like 60 something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
the demo and the junk out cost us a few thousand more than we had hoped. Than we're typical, because this was so bad.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's about low 60s.
Low 60s, yeah. So we'll be into it, 210, 215, and then after it's done, we should be able to sell it for low 300s. So we got good spread on it for sure.
Yeah, my analysis right now is sitting around 70 would be our net proceeds on it, and so that's kind of conservative, but I'm sure we could exceed that. So
yeah, for sure. And the kind of the nice thing about how we're set up now too is we debated on if we want to keep it as a rental. It's like kind of difficult with the cash flow perspective, but like we talked about, what we might do is just list it as like a rental for a week or two and just see if we have any bites at kind of like a primo rate. And if we do, we might as well rent it for like a year at least, and then sell it then, so we avoid the short-term capital gains tax, if nothing else.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great strategy, and we're of course in the business of collecting keys. So if that's another solid cash flowing property for us, then why not?
Yeah, exactly. We don't need the revenue, but especially if we can do a cash out refi on that, we'll be able to pull out pretty much all of our money.
We'll definitely be able to pull all of our money out on this one, I think. But then you look at kind of the ROI of that versus in the cash flow, all that sort of stuff. So that'll, I guess, all depend.
Yeah. We should really find. I don't know why I didn't think about this until right now. Look at what, like, if we do a cash out refi versus the flip with short-term capital gains, what the actual net comes to after that. Because there must be a number where if we're gonna flip it and make X amount, it makes more sense to not do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we're probably, because short-term capital gains is your tax rate, whatever that is, right? So probably for where you and I are sitting in like well, depending on if the taxes change in the future, but 24 or 32% bracket. So it kind of sucks.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, so cool. So we got that one wrapping up. We got another duplex closing on this next week that we'll have to be navigating. There's not really any work there. We're just going to have to deal with the people living there for a short period of time. And then got a wholesale one this week. And then got another one that I'm expecting to get that I think will be our next flip potentially.
Yeah, which one's that?
It's out on Joseph Hilliard area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be good. So, I mean, it's Hilliard, but
house is decent though, and it has finishable basement, which is our bread and butter. Pretty much everything where we can finish the basement. I just want to buy it. Yeah,
seriously, I know, because just the extra square feet, it's worked out pleasantly for us recently. So I think the question is always like, what does the second bathroom get you in that neighborhood?
Exactly. Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that one it already has a janky second bathroom, so we need to add it. We basically got to make it not shitty.
Yeah. It just saves so much time and effort in the plumbing and electrical piece of it's already there. Because the framing, all that drywall stuff, I mean, you can build that. I mean, it's cheap, right? Putting up drywall and framing walls is so fast and easy, but it's that extra little bit of time that takes about a week to get it all dialed in before you start closing it back up. But that would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we close on that one property, right, that we'll do a little bit of work on. Which one is that?
The duplex?
Or the duplex, yeah.
Yeah, we have like a tiny bit, but they kind of already have done it. I mean, those people just got themselves into a situation because they freaking bought this house with a hard money loan to be an investment several years ago, and then they illegally moved into the property. Yeah, they've been in this house on a hard money loan for like 3 years.
I wonder where they got the more hard money, because they're usually like due in 12 or something like that, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's 12% interest is what they're paying.
No, I thought all the hard money loans we get are usually due in 12 months. So I wonder if they're paying extra interest. You know, usually it's like, if you don't pay it off in 12, then it goes like 20% interest.
Yeah, well, the thing with hard money lenders, though, is you can always ask for an extension. And this particular hard money lender, I'm not going to blast their name on here, but is known for their very skeptical tactics, and they
scrupulous.
They kind of bet on suckers and people are going to fail so they can steal their house. I mean, we had a deal that we were unable to close this past fall because the seller got all weird and stopped participating in the transaction. But he had the same lender, which is basically a wealthy individual, and the guy was not smart. He was, just one of those very self-destructive people. And they gave him this hard money loan on his personal residence. He'd already actually bought it, and then they refinanced his loan for him, the hard money loan, and then took his house from him when he was not able to perform on this 12% note, right? So I'm guessing with these people, they kind of went through the same motion. They were like, oh, you're probably going to screw this up. So we'll just give you this loan, and we'll wait for you to fail so we can take your house for 40 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Instead, we swooped in and got there just in time.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? They've actually fixed it up. They were planning to keep it as a long-term rental, but they can't qualify for conventional financing. And so now they need to get out of it because the person has basically said, I'm not going to renew your loan anymore. So they must be itching for a project or something. So instead, we got to close before the end of the month to make sure that we can get out of it. But there's even like shady stuff that comes up though with that, because like our escrow agent was saying they don't respond when she tries to get payoffs.
Nice.
like they like intentionally try to drag it out, so it just screws them over.
That's where you should have like some ability to just be like, okay, this is how much you're getting and then they'll then maybe they'll call when they're like, that's not enough.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Yeah. I know there's some shady stuff that goes on.
I agree.
Like for especially in like the private financing world, always, if you're one of those people that's getting started and you meet somebody who offers you some kind of financing and it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and they're probably trying to rip you off, like these people.
Seriously, yeah, it's unfortunate, honestly, but
yeah. So anyway, the world of money is super weird like that. I mean, a lot of those hard money lenders, like that's a huge part of their business model is sucker loans, where you know they build into their margins these loans that they know will fail and they will foreclose on, and they will be able to flip themselves and make way more money than on the loan.
Yep.
So,
well, and that one closes in, I just looked at my calendar, 3 days, right? It's supposed to. Wednesday, so hopefully we get the payoffs for them.
Yeah, but talking to our closer last week, she said it might be bumped to Friday, but either way, it'll be this week. So
okay.
So we got to come up with some money to pay for it.
Yeah. Geez. Okay.
So, cool. All right. Well, that's a pretty good time there. What do you think, Dan? Any good lessons? Anything you're taking towards the new year that you're excited to apply here?
Just doing more deals and continuously optimizing both ends of our business, right? Whether it's the property management piece, the property stabilization piece, and then on the acquisition side, just getting more and more opportunities, getting more at bats for ourselves on the rental side, and then more at bats for the wholesale side too. Like if we can give our employees more at bats, then we know we can do it. And so continuous optimizing our systems as we bring in more leads. So that's what I'm excited for. Yeah. 2022 is going to be great for us in the sense of like, we've been doing this a while now and we've kind of put some key things in place where I think we're going to be able to kind of just keep moving.
Yep, exactly. And I think one of the biggest changes for us this year versus past years is just with the relationships we've built over the last couple of years, particularly in the finance sector. We've now have access to some very cheap money. We just got approved for a decent line of credit that will give us a lot of buying power. We had one of the lenders we were using call us to say they're going to start giving us a special rate because they knew we were using another lender as well. And they pretty much want us to only use them. So we're going to be getting, hard money from an institution at 7% at one point right now, which is pretty unheard of. And that plus the line of credit for down payments, plus just, us having more liquidity right now in general is going to be a game changer. We're going to be able to take down a lot more projects. If we want to squeeze more juice out of them rather than having to wholesale everything all the time. But, I think that opportunity is kind of earned from just doing deals, being good to your word, and just staying on top of things, right? So I think... Yeah,
it's kind of tough. Like financing a lot of times for new investors is the biggest challenge. And the way you get that is you do deals and you do a good job and like bust your butt. And when the lender calls you, you answer your phone. And so that, because they're doing sales too, right? They want clients that are easy to work with. But they also, you got to have a track record and show what you can do. Otherwise you're going to be getting more expensive lending. We went through it. But then the more sources of lending you can pull in, so you can pull your levers. Like we've got private money locally or hard money locally, hard money nationally, private money locally, line of credit. Like you build all these levers so that you can pull them when you need to.
Yep, exactly. And that's, that's a whole other conversation we can start another episode because the finance piece is huge. So, cool. All right. Well, you can follow us on Instagram. I am at Mike_invests. Dan is at InvestorManDan. You should go check out some of his recent stories about the flip that we're doing. It's pretty crazy how far it's come along. You can follow the podcast at Collecting Keys Podcast on Instagram. And if you go to collectingkeyspodcast.com, you can get our ebook, which is 5 steps to start generating off-market leads. I can let you know that if you get that ebook and you start that process, you should be able to start getting leads within like 10 days, realistically, when you start. It's all pretty cut and dry. So, go check it out. And any last words, Dan?
No, go get them leads after you read that ebook. They're there for you. They're ready for you.
Exactly. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
Yep. See y'all next week.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.